Hello YouTube, today I'm going to be talking about Star Citizen's identity crisis, and this really boils down to what is a space sim, because I think two generations of gamers have two very different definitions of what this means. And I think it's mainly a generational divide between those who played PC games in the 80s and 90s, including many of the classics of the quote genre, versus those who played really computer games and PC games in the 2000s to present day in terms of what they expect, including a lot of people in that latter group, I think, hear the term space sim and automatically, because they don't know any better, they haven't experienced anything different, think DCS and space. Unfortunately, those who played the classic space sims in the 80s and 90s, like the X-Wing series and the Wing Commander series, Free Space series of games, have a very, very different idea of what the word space sim actually means. And the term space sim has come to encompass a broad spectrum of games, from World War II in space, such as X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter or the Free Space series, to basically space shooters, such as Freelancer, from casual games like Wing Commander, to more hardcore games like Independence War, and things in between, such as Diaspora. We're going to take a look at one of the classics of the era. This is X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, recently re-released on Steam. And those of us who grew up playing these games in the 80s and 90s, whenever we hear the term space sim genre, this is what we're after. It's really a space dogfighting game. In fact, we shouldn't even use the term space sim. What we're after is that space dogfighting experience that we played in the X-Wing series and the Wing Commander series. Privateer was a space dogfighting game. Freelancer was a space shooter game. Now, a lot of the other aspects of the gameplay when it came to trading and taking on jobs and being part of a coherative jump in and jump out narrative story that you could go do your own thing for however long you wanted in kind of a sandbox. Those elements remain the same between Privateer and Freelancer, but the style of combat was completely different. And a large part of that had to do with Microsoft. Microsoft was the one who dictated that Freelancer should be flown with a mouse and keyboard instead of a joystick. And the reason behind that, I think, is largely a business decision. When that game was released in 2003, Microsoft had just exited the joystick business. That was when they released their last line of force feedback to Sidewinder joysticks, and were instead trying to get more into the keyboard and mice peripheral markets. They had released their optical mice at that point, and that was a big advantage over some of their other competitors, and a lot of people were buying Microsoft-branded mice. Not only that, but their argument was everybody had a mouse and a keyboard with their computer in these days. You know, if you want to jump back in time, in the 1980s, I had a joystick years before I had a mouse for my computer. And so did many other people. A joystick was a standard peripheral if you were going to be playing any given computer game. Computer games were designed to work with joysticks. And again, that started to change in the late 1990s as real-time strategy and first-person shooters started to become the preeminent PC game titles. But the game that Chris Roberts was kind of promising to the backer community during Kickstarter was something more akin to, well, the old Wing Commander series, the Privateer, not Freelancer. Again, his words, not mine. This is Diaspora. This is a fan-made total conversion of the Free Space 2 engine to the Battlestar Galactica reimagined universe. And I think that this is what a lot of people had in their minds in terms of expectations. I believe this was released around 2012, so not too much difference from when the Kickstarter began, but was expecting the combat to behave a lot more like this than what we currently have in Arena Commander even a year later. Again, we have 6 degrees of freedom. We can strafe up, down, left, right, forwards, and backwards. We have pitch, yaw, roll, and thrust. So we have all of the axes covered. It has a decoupled glide mode that will keep your velocity in going in one direction even though you're pointed in another direction. It does cheat on the physics. It's near Newtonian, not really Newtonian, but that's to match the style that was in the TV series. You know, they did it for trying to match the universe in which you're playing in, which I have absolutely no problem with it. But it also features a balanced control scheme. It's equally playable with mouse and keyboard as well as a joystick or HOTAS solution. And gamepad, due to the age of the Free Space 2 engine, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There are a lot of people who did get it to work with certain binding programs and stuff like that, but sometimes the engine itself. But this kind of leads to the question of, what is Star Citizen supposed to be? Is it supposed to be the best damn dogfighting game ever? Or I should say the best damn space dogfighter, or the best damn space shooter? Because these are entirely different types of games, and I think that this is really the crux of the whole situation between the community, and the divide and the split in the community is you have a definite group of backers, of original veteran backers, who wanted the best damn space dogfighter. And I think you have a later group of backers who want the best damn space shooter, a la Freelancer 2. And ultimately, I'm not entirely sure that CIG can ever make both those parties completely happy. And as a result, somebody's going to be going home with a sour taste in their mouth. And that's not going to necessarily be great for CIG, but at the same time, they probably have years in which to recover from it before the game actually gets released in any meaningful way in terms of a persistent universe. Now, another problem that we've had is basically CIG's silence on this topic when it comes to gimbaled weapons and controller balance for a year. The first references I can see of this popping up was after kind of a demo video in around April of 2014. The thread, I believe, was started by Captain Mitch of Sun on the forums, on the RSI forums. It's now, I think, part of one of the Katamaris. But at any rate, he pointed this out, that the video they showed Star Citizen behaving pretty much like Freelancer instead of Wing Commander. And that caused a significant portion of the original backer base, myself included, to say, wait a minute here. Hello, this isn't a dogfighting game, this is a shooter game. We back for a dogfighting game. Then when it was released in version 0.8, it was clearly kind of the case. And then it continued to move in that direction, especially with the addition of just about every gun in the game being gimbaled for whatever reasons with version 0.9 in October of 2014. And then many, many months of silence until basically last May, early June of 2015, basically almost over a year from when this topic was initially brought up by members of the community, and almost a year from the time that Arena Commander was released to backers, did anyone on the development team actually start to weigh in on the issue. And to those of us wanting the best space dogfighting game ever, it seriously looked like we were just being completely ignored. I mean, we kept up on it to the point of there's been a couple of very great videos highlighting the issue, one of them by CG Peppers, and leading to a remark from Lesnick, kind of a backhanded comment of, well, if I never see another video or post about controller balance and etc. again, it won't be too soon. And it's like, but hey guys, you sort of brought this upon yourselves by just remaining deadly silent. And part of me wonders if that's because even internally they don't know what game they're building. Are they building a best damn space dogfighting game, or are they building a best damn space shooter? And I think that CIG needs to kind of fess up and admit to the player base, are they going to stick to the Wing Commander style dogfighting game that was initially sold to a lot of the original or veteran backers 2.5 years ago, or are they going to move in the space shooter direction? Again, ultimately, I don't think you're going to be able to please both camps. And it's kind of an unenviable situation because CIG is going to get burned no matter which direction that they go. If they continue down the space shooter path, a lot of the original and veteran backers, folks like myself, are going to be very displeased, probably to the point where a significant number of people who spent in the hundreds and thousands of dollars, maybe in this point even tens of thousands of dollars, might kind of step back and say, we'd like a refund, please, because this is not the game that we backed 2.5 years ago. Conversely, you have a lot more recent backers who maybe joined after watching gameplay footage from Arena Commander after it was released to the public and decided, well, hey, this is going to be Freelancer 2, kind of in cockpits, and that's the game that I want. And if you go to the Wing Commander style, they're going to be equally as burned and probably equally demanding of refunds. And this is a situation not unlike Frontier found itself in upon the release of Elite Dangerous, when it was announced that offline mode was going to be removed as a feature and would never be part of the features yet. Some of the Kickstarter people had backed the game specifically because it was going to feature an offline mode and therefore had to be issued refunds. Now, that starts to get into some interesting legal questions about backing Kickstarters, as well as now that they're incorporated in the UK, which has much stronger consumer protection laws, you know, I'm going to shut off my lawyer brain at the moment here and not really get into those details. But, you know, I just kind of wish CIG at this point would say, this is the direction that we're going to be heading in. Right now, they just kind of seem to be in a rudderless ship about all of this. Well, that's pretty much all that I have to say. Be sure to leave your hate-filled comments about how wrong I am on everything in the section below, or like, subscribe, share if you agree. And see you next time.